Sunlight fractures as it enters the coastal shallows, casting ribbons of motion across the sand and coral below. The water is still, quiet, with only the faint murmur of distant waves and the occasional flick of a passing fish. Beneath a ledge encrusted with sponge and lichen-like corals, something stirs. But what exactly is hard to say. The patch of sand seems to shimmer for just a second. Then it shifts, what looked like gravel ripples with an impossible fluidity. From that ripple, an eye emerges, large, intelligent, shaped like a crescent moon. A body follows, uncoiling not with haste, but with a kind of theatrical grace. The cuttlefish has decided to reveal itself. In this underwater world where predation is a daily gamble, visibility is often vulnerability. But the cuttlefish does not run. It doesn't even hide in the traditional sense. It performs. With skin that responds to thought, this animal doesn't merely wear camouflage. It becomes its surroundings, reproducing not only color, but texture, contrast, and even motion. Its body is a living screen, displaying patterns that ripple, pulse, vanish, and reappear within milliseconds. In one moment, it resembles the broken shadow of seagrass on sand. In the next, it flashes high-contrast bands across its flanks like a warning flare or a strobe light. To the untrained eye, it seems like magic. But the illusion is rooted in biology and controlled through one of the most complex neuromuscular systems in the animal kingdom. The secret lies in chromatophores, tiny elastic sacs filled with pigment, controlled by rings of muscle fibers that can expand or contract to expose more or less color. Beneath these lie iridophores and leucophores, structural layers that reflect ambient light and create shimmering metallic effects. These layers work in harmony. The chromatophores define the pattern. The iridophores add the iridescence. It's not just color that changes, it's optical texture. With hundreds of thousands of these cells, each under direct control of the nervous system, a cuttlefish's skin becomes a display as responsive as a high-end LED screen, but powered entirely by biology. Unlike many animals whose coloration is passive or reflexive, the cuttlefish chooses its appearance. It sees its surroundings and decides how to match them or not. Studies have shown that cuttlefish don't just replicate background hues. They also read the edges and shadows in their field of vision, adjusting their body patterns to mimic not just what's directly beneath them, but what the predator might expect to see. This suggests not only visual acuity, but prediction, a form of mental modeling. And yet the irony is that cuttlefish are likely colorblind. Their eyes detect contrast and polarized light, but not true color as humans know it. So how do they match so perfectly? Scientists believe they rely on brightness, texture, and contrast, rather than chromatic matching, constructing their illusions based on what works, not on what's literally seen. When it hunts, the skin performance becomes even more dramatic. A small crab scuttles across the reef floor, unaware of what floats just above it. The cuttlefish hovers, arms drawn close, body elongated, fins undulating silently along the mantle edge. It begins to pulse with bands of black and white, ripples that travel down its body like electrical surges. The display isn't meant to blend in now, it's meant to distract. Known as the passing cloud pattern, this rhythmic display mesmerizes the prey, confusing its visual perception just long enough for the strike. Then, with a sudden burst, the cuttlefish lunges, firing out two specialized tentacles from its hidden mouth cavity. The tentacles snap forward, seize the crab, and retract with speed, rivaling the strike of a chameleon's tongue. It's over in less than a second. After the catch, the display fades. The skin returns to calm, now dappled with the gentle palette of the reef, a visual exhale. This ability to shift between deception and aggression, concealment and signaling, is at the heart of what makes the cuttlefish so compelling. It doesn't rely on strength or speed alone. Its power lies in control, in a mastery over its own appearance that makes it simultaneously invisible, dazzling, and unpredictable. But camouflage is only part of the repertoire. During mating, the cuttlefish enters a very different performance. Males approach females with a flare of brightness and pattern, advertising their fitness in a language made of moving color. Yet competition is fierce, and not every male can win by size or dominance. In some species, smaller males have developed an alternative strategy: deception. They will mimic the appearance of a female, flattening their posture, dulling their colors, slipping past dominant rivals to gain access to the female without a fight. Remarkably, some have been observed displaying male colors on one side of the body, and female patterns on the other, depending on who's watching. It's not just visual trickery, it's social intelligence rendered in skin. Behind all this lies a nervous system built for responsiveness. The cuttlefish's brain-to-body ratio is among the highest of all invertebrates, and its memory, problem-solving, and spatial reasoning rival that of some vertebrates. In experiments, they learn mazes, solve pattern puzzles, and even show evidence of episodic-like memory. Their neurons reach into the skin itself, allowing them to bypass centralized processing when they need rapid response. The body and the brain are not separate systems. They're intertwined in a feedback loop that turns thought into texture. Even the cuttlefish's mode of locomotion is tuned to its deceptive lifestyle. Using a combination of jet propulsion and fin undulation, it can hover in place, glide backward, or drift laterally without disrupting the sand or casting suspicious shadows. Its movement is not just efficient, it's quiet. A predator looking for the vibration of fin strokes or the disturbance of displaced water might never notice it floating by. And yet, for all their talent, cuttlefish are short-lived. Most survive only a year or two. They grow rapidly, reproduce once, and die soon after. Their legacy is not in longevity, but in adaptation. An evolutionary experiment in what it means to see without seeing, to speak without sound, to manipulate the environment without ever touching it. Their world is built from perception and projection, shaped by what others believe about them. In the most literal sense, their survival depends on imagination, both their own and that of their enemies. In the vast catalogue of marine predators, the cuttlefish doesn't chase with force, doesn't roar with power, doesn't dominate with size. It controls attention. It owns the moment. And through a symphony of shifting pigments, electrical signals, and behavioral timing, it writes a different rule for what it means to be deadly. Not the strongest, but the most unseen. In this arena of illusion, the cuttlefish is not just a survivor, it's a master performer. A magician whose skin tells the story before the strike ever lands. Where the murky estuaries of Southeast Asia bleed into the shallow fringes of the sea, the water loses its crystalline charm. Visibility narrows. Particles suspended in the current distort outlines. The seafloor becomes a patchwork of silt, shell fragments, and broken coral. An uneven, shifting stage where predators have little cover and prey even less warning. It is here, in this in-between world of mud and motion, that one of the ocean's most improbable survival stories unfolds. It begins with a ripple in the sediment, a soft undulation like a leaf disturbed by wind. But there is no wind, and this is no leaf. The mimic octopus rises slowly from the muck. Its body, pale brown with cream-colored bands, seems to expand in all directions. 8 arms snake outward, curling at the tips, moving not like limbs but like tendrils of something vegetal, alive but passive. Then the illusion shifts. The arms draw together, 2 folding flat along its sides, the others trailing behind. Its posture narrows. It starts to swim in tight, undulating motions. At a glance, it has become something else entirely. A sea snake, venomous and bold. A predator disguised as a different predator. But the act isn't random. It's calculated. Thormoctopus mimicus is a creature whose identity is fluid. Discovered only in 1998 off the coast of Indonesia, it stunned scientists not merely with its camouflage. Many octopuses can mimic rocks or coral, but with its impersonation of multiple, entirely different species. Lionfish, flatfish, sea snakes, mantis shrimp, crinoids. This animal doesn't just vanish, it reappears as something its enemies fear. More remarkably, these performances appear to be contextual. When threatened by damselfish, territorial and known to mob octopuses, the mimic often takes the form of a sea snake, which eats damselfish. This suggests more than instinct. It suggests memory, targeted deception. A predator adjusting its disguise based on who's watching. But how is such transformation possible? The answer lies in a combination of extreme neuromuscular control and environmental awareness. Like all octopuses, the mimic has no internal skeleton. Its entire body is soft, pliable, and supported by a mesh of muscle fibers that allow it to stretch, compress, and shapeshift with astonishing precision. Its arms contain more neurons than the rest of its body combined, allowing each limb to operate semi-independently. This decentralization gives the mimic octopus unparalleled control over form. One moment it spreads its arms like a lionfish's frilly pectorals, flaring them in a threatening arc. The next, it tucks itself flat against the seabed and glides like a flounder, fins mimicked in a fluid ripple of flesh. These transformations are not illusions in the sense of magic. They are physical acts, governed by real-time feedback between vision, touch, and motion. The octopus sees its surroundings, processes movement, and builds a new body shape on the fly. Its skin is lined with chromatophores and reflectors, but unlike the psychedelic displays of a cuttlefish, the mimic uses them to support the silhouette, not to dazzle. The genius here is not in brightness, but in believability. It helps that the mimic's habitat plays to its strengths. Estuaries and coastal mudflats offer poor visibility and minimal color diversity. In this world, a creature that can morph into known threats gains time, space, and control over each encounter. With few hard surfaces to hide behind, the mimic relies on confusion. And it's not always used for defense. Some researchers believe the mimic may also use impersonation as an offensive tool, blending in with venomous species to move closer to prey or to hunt in the open with reduced risk of interference. In one observation, a mimic was seen impersonating a flatfish while moving directly toward a group of unsuspecting gobies. In another, it adopted a lionfish-like pose and hovered near juvenile wrasses, seemingly unbothered by their proximity. Such behavioral flexibility is rare. Most animals rely on a fixed repertoire of tactics, hardwired responses to common threats. But the mimic octopus seems to choose, based on situation and surroundings. This points to a different kind of intelligence, not just problem-solving, but problem-framing. A mental toolkit designed for improvisation, not repetition. Part of this flexibility may be the result of how octopuses perceive the world. While their color vision is limited, they are extraordinarily sensitive to contrast, shape, and polarization. Their eyes, horizontally slit and wide-set, give them an expansive view of their surroundings and help them track movement from multiple directions. Combined with their tactile sensitivity, they taste and feel through their suckers. They build a layered sensory map of their environment. This allows them to operate in a visual field we can barely comprehend, where what matters most isn't color or sharpness, but motion, edge, and context. Like many cephalopods, the mimic has a short lifespan, barely a year, sometimes two. It matures quickly, mates once, and dies shortly after reproduction. Its intelligence is not backed by decades of learning, but by an evolutionary pressure to make every moment count. In this brief window of life, it must not only survive but solve, where to hide, when to move, whom to imitate. And in that span, it manages feats of disguise that no vertebrate on Earth can match. There's a paradox in watching a mimic octopus work. It is, by all appearances, delicate. No armor, no teeth, no venom. Its defenses are illusions, crafted, performed, and withdrawn in minutes. And yet this is not weakness, it's strategy. It thrives in a realm where strength is not in muscle, but in misdirection, where escape is not through speed, but by becoming what others fear most. A lionfish here, a snake there, a leaf, a shrimp, a shimmer of sand. Even among octopuses, long hailed as the brains of the invertebrate world, the mimic is an outlier. Most octopuses rely on stealth, hiding in dens, using ink clouds or camouflage to flee. The mimic takes a bolder path, showing itself but never as itself. Where others vanish, it becomes something new. And in doing so, it rewrites what it means to be a predator or prey in the ocean's fluid theater. The mimic octopus reminds us that the boundaries of identity in nature are far more elastic than we imagine. That survival sometimes comes not from being the strongest or the fastest, but from being unreadable, uncatchable, uncategorizable. It moves through the water not just as an animal, but as an idea, one that shifts shape with every observer, every threat, every opportunity. On the muddy seabed, where color fades and shadows drift slowly in the current, the mimic settles once again. Its arms relax, its body softens, and the lines between it and the silt blur. A fish passes overhead, unaware. The scene resets, but nothing is as it was, because the mimic is never quite what it was before. And that perhaps is its most powerful trick of all. The reef lies still beneath the low sun, painted in soft gold and dappled green as light filters down through surface ripples. Parrotfish crunch algae from coral branches, their scraping jaws adding rhythm to the quiet sway of sea fans and anemones. Tiny blennies hop between ridges, Gobies hover just above the sand. Everything feels in motion, yet nothing stirs too fast. It's a calm moment in the daily drama of the reef, except for one patch of rubble that never moves. A grey-brown mound, no larger than a loaf of bread, coated in algae and barely distinguishable from the coral rubble surrounding it. It hasn't shifted in hours, but when a curious juvenile wrasser swims just a little too close, the mound explodes. There is no lunge, no warning. Just a flash of jaws snapping upward and a puff of disturbed sand as the wrasse vanishes into the mouth of what seemed to be stone. The ambush took less than 1/100th of a second. In that blink, the predator resets, settles back into its shape, and becomes reef once more. The stonefish has fed, and no one saw it coming. Among ambush predators, Sinancea, the stonefish genus, sits at the extreme. Not in speed alone, though its strike rivals the fastest in the marine world. Not in brute strength, though its jaw-closing pressure can crush a crab. What defines the stonefish is invisibility. Not the transparency of jellyfish, not the shimmer of a silvery school, but true environmental disappearance. It doesn't blend in. It is the reef. Its skin grows patches of algae. Its fins are ragged like dead coral. Its colors aren't bright, they're dull, blotched and muted, with the exact visual irregularity of the rubble around it. In aquariums, keepers have mistaken them for rocks. In the wild, divers have stepped on them. That mistake comes at a high price. Because the stonefish doesn't just hide, it defends itself with one of the most potent venoms in the animal kingdom. Along its back, 13 stout dorsal spines are linked to venom glands. If pressure is applied, say by a foot, the spine punctures upward and delivers a powerful mix of neurotoxins, myotoxins, and cytotoxins. The pain is described as immediate and excruciating, often likened to burning or having the crushed bones of the foot electrified from within. Swelling follows. Tissue can die. In severe cases without treatment, the venom has proven fatal. But the venom is not its primary weapon. It's a secondary insurance. The stonefish doesn't go looking for conflict. It relies on its ability to not be seen, to wait in stillness, sometimes for days, until a meal comes to it. Its diet is opportunistic: small fish, crustaceans, anything that passes within striking distance, and it doesn't chase. Instead, it uses a technique called suction feeding. When prey swims too close, the stonefish's jaw muscles expand the mouth cavity with such speed and force that water and prey are sucked in before the victim's brain has time to register movement. It's a mechanical action, refined to such perfection that not a single fin needs to move until the strike is already complete. This motionless existence demands patience and incredible control. Stonefish have poor vision compared to many reef predators, and they rely heavily on pressure waves in the water detected through their lateral line system. But where many fish use this system for movement and reaction, the stonefish uses it for stillness, for precision in non-action. It knows how long it can wait. It knows what pressure ripples signal a living fish versus drifting debris. It doesn't waste energy. It only strikes when it must. Even its body is shaped for concealment. Flattened and squat, the stonefish presses low against the substrate, minimizing shadow and contour. The fins are short and rounded, tucked beneath the body and used more for stabilization than propulsion. It moves like a slow crawl, sometimes inching forward on stubby pectorals, sometimes shifting just enough to realign with the current, but never far. This is not a traveler. It is an assassin who chooses a patch of reef and calls it home until the food supply forces relocation. Its range is surprisingly wide. Stonefish live from the Red Sea to the Indo-Pacific and as far south as Australia's tropical coastlines. They prefer shallow waters, often just meters deep, though they can be found along reef slopes as well. What they need is structure: coral heads, rocky bottoms, algae-covered seafloor. Somewhere they can vanish, not behind things, but as things. In these regions, they're apex ambush predators, not because of size, but because of their efficiency. Interestingly, their venom has little role in hunting. Most prey are swallowed whole and alive, with no injection of toxin needed. The venom is reserved for threats, accidental or intentional. When provoked, a stonefish may flare its dorsal spines, raise its body slightly, and arch in a defensive posture. But often it simply remains still, trusting its appearance to deter confrontation. If attacked, it doesn't flee. It allows the toxin to speak. In recent years, stonefish have gained renewed attention not only for their venom, but for their place in human-wildlife conflict. In areas with heavy tourism and reef walking, injuries have increased. Anti-venom is available, but access varies, and the pain alone often leaves a lasting impression. Yet despite this notoriety, stonefish are not aggressive. They are models of conservation, using only what's needed, never pursuing, never wasting energy. Their danger lies in their design, not in their intent. In a way, the stonefish embodies an evolutionary philosophy opposite to creatures like the shark or the tuna. It is not built for motion or intimidation. It is built for absence, for being the thing no one notices until it's too late. Its power lies not in movement, but in anti-movement, in the art of hiding so completely that the world passes by unaware. As the sun shifts overhead and the reef enters the quieter rhythms of late afternoon, the stonefish has already returned to its patient state. The rasa has vanished, digestion has begun, and nothing about the predator reveals what just occurred. Fish swim near, unaware. A crab pauses just inches from its fin, and the stonefish doesn't move. It will wait again, silent, invisible, and absolutely certain that in the ocean's crowded theater, the best killers don't need to run. They only need to watch. The ocean seems to hold its breath in the shallow coves of the Indo-Pacific as dawn rises. Light pours down through the surface in soft columns, scattering across shifting sand and trailing seaweed. The water is still, clear as glass, giving the illusion of safety. No splashes, no chasing fins, no swirling clouds of sediment stirred by predator bursts. Just the delicate shimmer of sunlight and a silence so complete it could be mistaken for peace. But this silence has a ghost drifting through it, unseen, unreadable, lethal. The box jellyfish doesn't advertise its presence. It drifts in eerie grace, its bell almost invisible against the water's backdrop, like a translucent dome suspended in a void. 4 clusters of tentacles trail behind it like threads of smoke, long and weightless, moving only because the water moves. At first glance, they seem harmless. So fine and ethereal, they appear more like stray filaments from a torn fishing net than the weaponized anatomy they truly are. Yet each tentacle can be over 3 meters long, lined with thousands of nematocysts, microscopic harpoons capable of piercing flesh and delivering an exquisite cocktail of venom. In the animal kingdom, few things are as deceptively gentle in form and as devastating in function. This is Chironex fleckeri, the most infamous of the box jellyfish, patrolling the warm waters off northern Australia. To the human eye, it's nearly invisible. Its body composed of 95% water, its gelatinous tissues offering no resistance to sunlight. Fishermen fear it. Swimmers dread it. But to the fish, shrimp, and small crustaceans that share its world, the threat comes without warning. There is no chase, no stalking. The prey swims past what it thinks is nothing and gets wrapped in a death trap of silk. The attack is triggered by touch and chemical cue. As the prey brushes a tentacle, special cells sense movement and release nematocysts in a flash. These stinging structures fire with immense speed, one of the fastest biomechanical reactions known, embedding into the target and pumping in venom designed to paralyze, kill, and begin digestion all at once. The fish spasms, muscles lock. It tumbles helplessly as the tentacle coils around its body like a lasso, dragging it upward toward the bell where digestive enzymes begin breaking it down. What's particularly astonishing is the efficiency, how a creature with no brain, no centralized nervous system, can operate a predatory system with this much sophistication. Indeed, the box jellyfish lacks a true brain. Instead, it possesses a network of nerve cells, called a nerve net, capable of processing environmental information and triggering coordinated movements. But even more remarkable are its eyes. Along each of the 4 sides of its cube-like bell, it houses clusters called rhopalia. Each rhopalium contains 6 eyes, yes, real eyes, 2 of which are complex and camera-like with lenses, retinas, and even an iris. These allow the jellyfish not just to sense light, but to see shapes, orientation, and movement. They don't see in color, but they can detect obstacles, avoid shadows, and swim purposefully rather than simply drifting. This makes box jellyfish unique among jellies. While most are at the mercy of the current, Chironex can swim rapidly even contracting its bell in strong, deliberate pulses. It can adjust course. It can avoid nets and swim toward shorelines where prey density is high. Scientists believe this active swimming ability evolved alongside their venom potency and complex eyes, making them true hunters rather than passive drifters. At the same time, this active lifestyle has tied them closely to specific habitats: shallow waters, estuaries, and mangrove-lined bays, where fish nurseries provide ample food. But the venom is the true evolutionary marvel. For fish, it's a kill switch, disabling the nervous system in seconds. For crabs and shrimp, it's a paralysis agent. For humans, it's a nightmare. The sting from Chironex fleckeri can cause excruciating pain, tissue necrosis, and in severe cases, cardiac arrest within minutes. The venom contains a potent mixture of proteins that attack the heart, nervous system, and skin all at once. Its lethality is not an exaggeration. More than 60 human fatalities have been recorded in Australia alone, mostly from rapid cardiac failure after full contact with the tentacles. And yet, despite its fearsome reputation, the box jellyfish remains a mystery in many ways. Its reproductive habits are still not fully understood. It lives a dual life, part medusa, part polyp. After mating, the adult jelly releases fertilized eggs that grow into tiny polyps, which anchor to hard surfaces in secret locations, rocks, piers, or submerged mangrove roots. There they reproduce asexually before budding off new medusae that enter the open sea. These juveniles grow quickly in warm, nutrient-rich waters and reach full size in a matter of weeks. But the full extent of their movements, their seasonal patterns, and even their ecological role remain partly hidden beneath the waves. In terms of evolutionary design, the box jellyfish represents a paradox. It has no skeleton, no muscles in the traditional sense, no brain, yet it is deadly, precise, and adaptive. Its transparency isn't just camouflage, it's the perfect cloak. Its stings are not mindless defense, they are deliberate tools. It is a ghost in the water, but not a passive one. It sees, it swims, it chooses, and it kills with intent. As morning drifts toward noon, the reef edge warms and fills with life. Schools of baitfish shimmer like silver clouds in the shallows. Juvenile groupers take shelter under coral heads. A stingray lifts off from the sand with a soft whoosh, and still the box jellyfish moves unseen, floating among them all, its transparent veil gliding effortlessly across the seafloor shadows. One fish ventures too close. A twitch in the water, a strand coils tight. The shimmer fades. The box jellyfish resumes its silent patrol, carried by purpose and current alike, offering no sound, no color, no shape to follow. Just a lesson that in the ocean's vast and vivid theater, the deadliest things are not the loudest, nor the largest, but the ones you never notice until it's too late. The coral slopes descend in soft gradients beneath the turquoise canopy of the Caribbean Sea, where sea fans sway lazily in rhythm with the swell and shafts of light ripple like golden ribbons across reef ledges. Amid this watery stillness, something stirs, not with urgency but with eerie elegance. From a cluster of staghorn coral, a figure emerges like a ghost wearing a feathered robe. Long fins unfurl like theatrical curtains, striped and billowing in perfect symmetry, as if putting on a silent performance. This is Pterois volitans, the red lionfish, and it doesn't swim, it prowls. With exaggerated slowness, the lionfish hovers just above the coral, its flared pectoral fins casting zebra-like shadows on the sand. Every motion is deliberate. It glides rather than swims, manipulating buoyancy with precise adjustments of its swim bladder. Its movement mimics driftwood or a piece of floating algae, tricking both prey and predator alike. And in these tropical shallows, where camouflage usually means color blending or burrowing, this fish dares to stand out. And that's precisely what makes it dangerous. Unlike most reef predators that rely on stealth, the lionfish embraces spectacle. Its fin display is more than an ornament. It's a strategy. With its flared pectorals extended outward like wings, it corrals small fish, blocking escape routes and herding them into corners. The movement of its fins isn't random. It pulses rhythmically, creating a visual tunnel that draws prey inward like moths to a flame. And when the distance narrows just enough, the lionfish lunges with startling speed, opening its cavernous mouth to suck in prey with a vacuum-like gulp. There is no bite, no fight, just disappearance, prey swallowed whole before it realizes the game has changed. The lionfish's fins also serve another role, a defense rooted in chemistry. Along its dorsal ridge runs a crown of needle-like spines, each tipped with venom. These spines don't attack, they wait. When a threat closes in, the lionfish merely angles its body to expose these harpoons. It doesn't need to fight, just show itself. For most predators, that's enough. The venom, a complex mix of neurotoxins and proteins, can cause intense pain, swelling, and even temporary paralysis in vertebrates. While rarely lethal to humans, it's enough to convince predators from groupers to sharks to think twice. But the real story of the lionfish isn't just in its beauty or its weapons, it's in its conquest. This fish, native to the Indo-Pacific, was never meant to rule these western waters. Yet here it is, the invader turned overlord of the Caribbean and Western Atlantic reefs. Released accidentally or deliberately into non-native waters in the 1980s, the lionfish found itself in a world without enemies, and with prey that didn't recognize its dance of death. What followed was ecological upheaval. Wherever lionfish established themselves, biodiversity declined. Juvenile reef fish, gobies, wrasses, damselfish began to vanish. In some areas, native fish populations dropped by 90% within just a few years. The lionfish, breeding every few days and laying tens of thousands of eggs per clutch, expanded its empire like wildfire. No predator hunted it. No parasite weakened it. No prey escaped its strategy of illusion and ambush. Its hypnotic approach, so finely tuned in its native habitat to balance with other predators, became unstoppable in a reef community that hadn't evolved to deal with it. Scientists studying lionfish behavior noticed their remarkable capacity to adapt. When prey learned to avoid coral outcrops, lionfish began ambushing from open sand. When prey fled to crevices, lionfish hovered, fanning water into cracks to flush them out. They even hunt cooperatively at times, herding prey into tight balls before striking one by one, a behavior more often seen in intelligent pack predators. These aren't just flamboyant fish. They are highly adaptable, strategic predators cloaked in the guise of ornament. What's even more fascinating is the disconnect between their appearance and their impact. The lionfish doesn't look fast, it is. It doesn't look strong, it doesn't need to be. It doesn't look aggressive, yet it dominates. It has no jaws to crush, no fangs to tear. Its weapons are rhythm, motion, and toxic defense. It wins not by overpowering its prey, but by confusing them into compliance. In many ways, the lionfish is a marine magician, using showmanship to control its environment. Prey hypnotized by movement, predators discouraged by reputation, ecosystems reshaped by its proliferation. And still, it drifts forward, unbothered by the shadows of larger predators above, unfazed by the sudden flick of a tail or distant threat of a lurking moray. The lionfish owns its space. It has made theater into power, yet hope comes not from nature, but from us. Divers in the Caribbean now participate in lionfish hunting tournaments. Spearfishers target them with precision. Chefs in coastal communities promote lionfish cuisine, offering culinary solutions to ecological chaos. Humans, late to the stage, are trying to rewrite the lionfish story, not with venom, but with forks and knives. But beneath the surface, the hypnotist still performs. Another reef, another coral head, another cloud of juvenile fish too young to know fear. The lionfish approaches without urgency. Its fins pulse like silk banners in slow motion. A goby flicks its tail and veers left, unsure why it paused in the first place. Too late. The lionfish opens its mouth in a blink, and with a whoosh, the scene resets. In the quiet Caribbean, among swaying corals and filtered sunlight, one of the ocean's greatest illusions plays out again, and the applause comes in silence. Beneath a sunlit ripple of tropical shallows, where water laps lazily over powdery sand, danger lies buried just millimeters beneath the surface. To the casual observer, the ocean floor is still and undisturbed, perhaps scattered with fragments of shell or an occasional burrowing crab. But concealed in the silt, only eyes and a faint grimace betraying its presence, the stargazer fish waits. It does not roam. It does not chase. It lies in ambush, its entire physiology built for deceit, violence, and patience. With a flattened body and upturned, periscopic eyes that peer eternally skyward, the stargazer has evolved not to search for prey, but to let prey come to it. Like a living landmine, it waits, jaws agape just beneath the grains, covered entirely by its own careful flurry of sand, save for two tubular eyes that monitor everything above. The eyes, adapted for upward vision, are more than just sentries. They're surveillance towers, tuned to spot the outline of a distracted goby or the flutter of an unwary damselfish passing overhead. And when it sees its opportunity, the result is sudden, violent, and almost absurdly efficient. The explosion happens in less than a blink. A suction-powered jaw opens like a sprung trapdoor, inhaling not only the fish but the water surrounding it. There is no warning, no chase, and no reaction time. For the prey, the sand simply opens up and devours it. But the stargazer's tricks don't end at camouflage and jaw mechanics. This predator brings an additional and highly unusual weapon to the table: electricity. Alongside its eyes and mouth, two electric organs nestle behind its gill covers. With them, the fish can generate a pulsing electrical discharge, enough to stun small prey or dissuade larger predators. It's not as potent as the electric eel's current, but in the world of shallow reef ambush predators, it's the equivalent of a taser embedded in the sand. These shocks aren't just used for attack. Stargazers often emit electric pulses as a warning system, particularly when disturbed by larger animals, or, more often, divers, who accidentally place a hand too close. The discharge is brief, sharp, and deeply unsettling. A reminder that this inert-looking patch of sand has its own perimeter defenses. Its appearance is no accident either. The stargazer's facial structure is eerily human-like. Eyes forward-facing, a downturned mouth, even a grimacing expression that seems perpetually annoyed. But this anatomy is functional, not anthropomorphic. The raised forehead ridges allow for sand to pile naturally over its body without obstructing vision. Its fleshy lips act as bait, wriggling just enough to mimic marine worms or injured fish. Occasionally, a stargazer will open its mouth and pulse its tongue like a worm, an added illusion layered into the ambush. And in this shallow theater of light and illusion, the backdrop is constantly shifting. Tides sweep sediment into ever-changing dunes. Sunbeams fragment through the ripples above, painting unpredictable shadows across the sea floor. The stargazer uses this chaos to its advantage. It rarely moves more than a body length between ambushes. When it does, it burrows swiftly, twisting its body in rhythmic undulations to sink beneath the sand in less than 30 seconds. Within a minute, it's invisible again, and the show resets. It's not a glamorous predator. Unlike reef sharks or groupers, the stargazer doesn't patrol its domain with charisma or dominance. It lives in a world measured in inches, seconds, and angles, where prey are seduced not by power, but by silence. Its body is awkward, poorly suited for swimming, and its dorsal fin barely functions for anything other than a quick dig or a twitch in surprise. But this ungainly form is perfect for ambush. Evolution has not burdened the stargazer with flair, it has distilled it into a single devastating act. The habitat, too, tells its own story. Stargazers often share their world with sand divers, flounders, and garden eels, creatures adapted to a life of concealment and minimalism. In such an environment, moving too often means exposing oneself to dangers. So the trick is to wait, to read the world from underneath it, and to become part of the background noise. And few do this better than the stargazer. Interestingly, several species of stargazers have evolved independently in different oceans, testament to how effective this lifestyle is. Across the Indo-Pacific, the Atlantic, and even parts of the Mediterranean, variations of this same predator have cropped up, each with slight differences in venom, electric ability, or jaw strength, but all built around the same core concept: hide, watch, strike. They are not dominant predators in the ecosystem. They don't need to be. Their hunting is opportunistic, and their presence, despite being deadly, is subtle. They aren't feared by many, but they are felt. Ask any diver who's placed a knee too close to a seemingly blank patch of sand and received a jolt of electricity in return. What the stargazer represents more than anything is how evolution rewards efficiency. It shows us that the ocean isn't only a place of speed and spectacle, it's a domain where the still, the buried, and the quiet can rule just as effectively as the roaring and the fast. Every ripple above could carry prey, and every flick of a fin might be the last. In this world, the greatest trick is not hiding from danger, it's becoming the sand itself. And the stargazer, that grumpy-faced master of patience, has done exactly that. Beneath the shimmering veil of a tropical reef, where sun rays dapple shifting mosaics of coral and swaying anemones, a deceptively unremarkable creature patrols the water column with a vacant stare and soft, hovering grace. Its rounded body moves slowly, as if oblivious to the bustling neighborhood of reef dwellers, darting through crevices and chasing plankton clouds. It is a pufferfish, a slow swimmer, vulnerable in theory and seemingly harmless in every regard. But to underestimate this little drifter is to ignore millions of years of evolutionary ingenuity packaged into a single, bizarre survival engine. The pufferfish's first trick is its deception by demeanor. It exudes no urgency, no apparent threat, no reason for a predator to keep its distance. Its eyes scan the surroundings with rotational independence, and its awkward fin flutters betray nothing of alarm. And that is the point. It is bait for hubris. A misstep by the hunter means triggering one of the most surreal defense mechanisms in the marine world. The moment a predator charges, the illusion collapses, and something extraordinary unfolds. With an explosive intake of water, the puffer inflates itself to several times its original size in mere seconds. Its soft silhouette balloons into a rigid, grotesque sphere, bristling with sharp spines that moments ago lay hidden beneath soft skin. This sudden transformation can be the difference between life and death, flipping the predator-prey script in an instant. Moray eels, groupers, even reef sharks. Many have attempted to snatch a pufferfish, only to find their jaws overextended, locked wide or worse, impaled. In rare cases, the puffed fish lodges itself in a predator's throat, transforming into a passive weapon of mutual destruction. But its defense does not end with physical expansion. Hidden within its organs is another line of deterrent, one far deadlier and invisible. Many species of pufferfish carry tetrodotoxin, a neurotoxin estimated to be over 1,000 times more potent than cyanide. A dose the size of a pinhead can kill a human. It is not a venom, no fangs or stingers are involved, but a poison absorbed through contact or ingestion. Despite its lethality, the pufferfish does not produce the toxin itself. Instead, it accumulates it through its diet, bacteria living on marine organisms it consumes. It is a borrowed chemical defense system, passed upward through the food chain, accumulating in tissues as a silent threat. From an evolutionary standpoint, the pufferfish's morphology is a paradox. It lacks scales, swims poorly, and has no escape speed to speak of. But its body has been shaped instead into a living warning label, an organism built not for battle, but for deterrence. Its skin is thick, rubbery, and surprisingly elastic, allowing for the dramatic expansion without tearing. Internally, the stomach folds like an accordion, ready to deploy when the signal arrives. Even its skeletal structure is unique. Ribs reduced or absent, allowing the whole abdomen to swell like a balloon, pushing the boundaries of what vertebrate form can accommodate. And yet not all is defense. All. Some species of pufferfish exhibit unexpected delicacy and finesse in behavior, particularly in reproduction. In the sands off the coast of Japan, male pufferfish from the genus Torquigana become artists of the seabed. They use their tiny fins to carve intricate circular patterns into the sand, geometric mandalas up to 2 meters in diameter with radiating spokes and symmetrical grooves. The purpose? These underwater sculptures serve as courtship arenas, luring females to inspect the builder's skill and dedication. The better the pattern, the higher the mating success. And once the eggs are laid, the male guards them, nestled in the center of this ornate cradle until they hatch. This duality between armored grotesquerie and sand-carving artist makes the pufferfish one of the most unusual case studies in behavioral plasticity. It is both an inflated fortress and a meticulous engineer. And its strange locomotion adds yet another layer. Without a conventional tail-fin propulsion system, the pufferfish uses a combination of dorsal, anal, and pectoral fins to move in tight, deliberate bursts. It doesn't swim so much as it hovers, like a helicopter rather than a jet, enabling it to make exacting adjustments in position, especially when inspecting food or potential threats. Indeed, its diet is another testament to hidden strength. While small in stature, the pufferfish has a crushing bite. Its teeth, fused into a beak-like plate, can shear through the armor of mollusks, crustaceans, and sea urchins with disturbing ease. Coral polyps and invertebrate shells are no match for this dental toolkit. Many reef species that appear passive herbivores are routinely harassed by the pufferfish's persistent gnawing. Its mouth is less a feeding tool than a rotary grinder. Again, an unlikely weapon concealed in an unlikely package. In ecosystems where survival demands more than brute strength, the pufferfish stands out as a cautionary tale in misjudgment. Evolution has tuned it not to outrun predators, but to outlast their confidence. In an ocean where deception often comes in forms that shimmer, dart, or disappear, the pufferfish embraces absurdity. It becomes bigger. It becomes toxic. It becomes strange enough to make even the boldest predator pause and reconsider. To human observers, it invites curiosity, even admiration. But it is not harmless. Its toxins kill dozens annually, most often in countries where pufferfish is served as the delicacy known as fugu. Prepared only by licensed chefs in Japan, the tiniest mistake in slicing can turn an expensive meal into a fatal gamble. That such a small animal can command this level of danger and reverence in both nature and culture speaks to its unique role as a biological paradox. So here it drifts again, deflated, soft, almost adorable. But under that innocent mask lies a body armed with needles, poison, and ancestral memories of everything that ever tried and failed to eat it. The ocean, it seems, rewards those who rewrite the rules. And the pufferfish? It wrote its own playbook. Far out in the cold blue expanse of the North Atlantic, where the sea breathes in long, slow swells and seabirds trace lazy arcs across the wind-whipped sky, the ocean hides giants. Beneath the waves, deeper than any sailboat's keel might skim, a great shadow moves with deceptive grace. Muscles ripple under blubber-laden bulk as the creature ascends, slow and silent, toward the golden dappling of surface light. It is a humpback whale, a titan by measure, a maestro by reputation. This is no random ascent. It is a performance, a calculated move. The humpback is not merely hunting, it is preparing to choreograph the ocean around it. Above, a shimmering cloud of sand lance flits in a loose ball. Tiny, silver-backed fish darting in synchronized chaos, their mirrored scales flickering like polished armor. To most predators, these bait balls are frustration incarnate. Every darting lunge scatters the swarm. Speed alone fails. But the humpback does not rush. It thinks. It engineers. With one powerful kick of its tail, the whale disappears downward, diving beneath the fish. Then it begins to release streams of air, not through its blowhole but from its mouth. The bubbles roll upward in a twisting spiral, forming an invisible barrier. Around and around the whale swims, exhaling in controlled bursts. The water column becomes a vortex of rising white pearls, a vertical net made from nothing but breath. This is the bubble net, one of the most sophisticated group hunting strategies in the marine world. As the curtain of bubbles thickens, the fish begin to panic. To them, the bubbles appear as physical walls, something to avoid. But everywhere they turn, more rise, closing in. The light dims. The spiral tightens. The trap sets. Then, without warning, the whale rises, mouth agape, surging through the center of its own creation like a missile launched from the deep. The fish, funneled and disoriented by the swirling cage of bubbles, have nowhere to flee. Dozens, hundreds, vanish into the cavernous maw. The whale breaches the surface with a thunderous splash, water spilling from its baleen-fringed jaws. A feast, not of chase, but of cleverness. This behavior isn't solitary. Humpbacks often hunt cooperatively, using coordinated bubble nets in small pods. Each whale takes a role. Some create the spiral, others vocalize with specialized feeding calls to herd the fish downward, and one might take the central strike. The choreography is so precise, so repeatable, that scientists once thought it must be hardwired instinct. But studies show otherwise. These tactics are learned, passed from whale to whale, a cultural trait, a hunting tradition. And it's not just functional, it's elegant. Each bubble net differs slightly, some wider, some tighter, some in double spirals, tailored to prey behavior and local currents. In Alaskan waters, bubble netting is often timed with tidal shifts and herring behavior. In other regions, it vanishes altogether. Only certain populations use it, reinforcing the idea that this is knowledge, not reflex. Humpbacks, it turns out, are engineers of the sea, not just brawn, but brains. They rely not on sharp teeth or venom, but on geometry, cooperation, and anticipation. While apex predators like orcas rely on brute force and coordinated violence, humpbacks lean on misdirection and environmental manipulation. They do not need to swim faster than their prey. They change the rules of the hunt, and their weapon of choice, the bubble, is a masterstroke of ecological simplicity. Air underwater refracts light, confuses sonar perception in fish, and creates noise when released rapidly. These effects together form an optical and sensory trap that disorients prey long enough for a carefully timed ambush. The whale, massive though it is, becomes a ghost rising from the spiral, the last thing the fish ever see. On occasion, this predator's tactic creates unintended theater. Dive teams lucky enough to witness bubble net feeding from below report the eerie beauty of rising cylinders of air encasing swarms of fish, with sunlight filtering through like spotlights on a submarine stage. The sudden rush of a 40-ton whale cutting vertically through the core is as silent as it is overwhelming, more apparition than animal. For a moment, physics bows to biology, and then there is the voice. Humpbacks are singers. Their haunting, drawn-out melodies stretch across frequencies and timescales that humans can barely grasp. But these songs are not just for courtship. In bubble netting, some vocalizations act as acoustic herding tools. A well-timed burst of sound sends prey diving into the waiting spiral. It is sound as a herder, not a signal. Noise as architecture. Few animals weaponize both air and acoustics the way humpbacks do. This behavior has evolved not in defiance of the humpback's size, but because of it. It cannot dart or corner like smaller predators. Instead, it must trap. And it does so with startling reliability. The strategy isn't flashy, it's unseen, but deadly. Occasionally, the process backfires. The net collapses early. Currents distort the spiral. The fish escape. The pod must begin again, sometimes dozens of times in a day. This persistence reveals the complexity of the behavior. Each iteration is a real-time calculation of prey density, location, and escape vectors. It is trial and error at megafauna scale. Despite this, humpbacks have few predators of their own. Calves are sometimes targeted by orcas, but adults are largely unchallenged. And perhaps part of that immunity lies in their intelligence. These whales remember. They recognize individuals. They respond to distress calls from unrelated calves. Some even intervene when orcas hunt other species, not as a defense of kin, but perhaps of principle or empathy, which makes their bubble net strategy all the more remarkable. Not only is it a brilliant solution to hunting, but it represents one of the rare cases where large predators prioritize cooperation and learning over violence and domination. In the open ocean, where survival is often a matter of tooth and fin, the humpback whale proves that breath, sound, and memory can be just as lethal. So when you next see the ocean surface break with a burst of foam and the gleam of baleen slicing upward through silver rain, remember, it wasn't luck, it wasn't chance. It was a trap, drawn in spirals, woven from air, and executed with silent, deliberate grace. The ocean has its killers, but it also has its architects. At a depth where sunlight no longer reigns, the ocean becomes a void. It is neither blue nor black, but a colorless expanse of pressure and silence. This is the midnight zone, a realm so dark that even the concept of up or down loses meaning. Down here, in the crushing stillness beneath 1,000 meters of water, life survives by bending light itself. Bioluminescence is not decoration. It is the language, the trap, the weapon. In this world, the predator doesn't just strike, it performs. A faint blue pulse flickers in the void, suspended in absolute stillness. Then another, not enough to illuminate anything concrete, just enough to disrupt perception. The light floats, tethered by an invisible thread, slowly undulating like a ghostly flame in an airless sky. This is no accident. It is the lure of the deep-sea anglerfish, a solitary assassin hovering silently with its grotesque head crowned by a glowing filament, an evolutionary adaptation of the dorsal spine called the elysium. At its tip is the esker, the bait. Within it, bacteria engineered by millions of years of symbiosis emit cold light. The prey does not see the danger. It sees only what looks like hope in an otherwise featureless darkness. Juvenile squid, lanternfish, even other bioluminescent animals are drawn toward the glow like iron filings to a magnet. They swim close, too close, fascinated, perhaps thinking it is a floating crustacean or another member of their school. The anglerfish doesn't move. Its body, bloated and misshapen by pelagic pressures, is still mouth agape. Its teeth are long, needle-like and inward-facing, shaped not to kill outright, but to ensure that anything that enters will never leave. When the moment comes, it doesn't lunge. Instead, its entire head expands, jaw unhinging, vacuuming the water in a sudden pulse that swallows the intruder whole. The light goes out. The trap resets. Elsewhere in this abyss, another kind of deception swims silently. It doesn't hunt with a lure, but with transparency and trickery. The barrel-eye fish is a living optical illusion. With a tubular, transparent dome covering its head and rotating, upward-pointing eyes embedded inside, it appears like something imagined rather than evolved. Its body is unremarkable, but its strategy is genius. The barrel-eye positions itself below prey silhouetted faintly against the last traces of overhead bioluminescence or the weak glows of other animals. With eyes that rotate within a clear fluid chamber, it tracks movement without revealing its position. An apex snooper in a world without vision. What gives both these predators an edge isn't just stealth or surprise, it's their ability to control how light behaves in a place where there is none. Down here, shadows don't exist unless something creates them. That creation, the ability to emit, distort, or manipulate light, transforms these predators into something far more than hunters. They become illusionists. Bioluminescence in these organisms is not a static feature. It is a living organ, fueled by chemical reactions between luciferin and oxygen, catalyzed by the enzyme luciferase. This light is cold, efficient, and precisely timed. In the case of the deep-sea jellyfish Atolla, light is used not to attract but to escape. When attacked, it ignites a swirling pattern of bioluminescent pulses, like a reverse strobe light. The predator, disoriented, loses focus. Some species even use this as a burglar alarm, hoping a larger hunter will be drawn to the flashing light and dispatch their original attacker instead. There are shrimp that eject glowing chemicals into the water like underwater flares, momentarily blinding and distracting predators while they vanish in a puff of light. Some squid species have bioluminescent organs that mimic the shifting patterns of moonlight from above, erasing their silhouette from view. And in the case of dragonfish, red bioluminescence gives them the deep-sea equivalent of night vision. Most creatures at these depths can't see red, so they use it like an invisible spotlight to stalk prey. What unites these tactics isn't strength, it's manipulation. These animals are architects of attention, controlling what their prey sees, when it sees it, and how it reacts. They distort reality in a place already warped by pressure, cold, and eternal dark. The predator becomes a puppeteer, and every flicker of light a string tied to the instincts of something smaller, slower, or simply more curious. Evolution in this arena doesn't favor speed or brawn, it favors control over perception. The line between visibility and invisibility is currency. A poorly timed flash, a lure held a second too long, or a misplaced pulse of light can mean starvation. Every move must be calculated not just by biology, but by the understanding of how another creature will respond. This isn't just survival, it's psychology rendered in phosphorescence. And it's not only the hunters who participate in this theater. Some prey species mimic the lights of predators or of toxic organisms to ward off attacks. Others cluster together in swirling galaxies of bioluminescent dots, creating the illusion of something far larger or more dangerous than any single fish. Here, illusion becomes community defense, a mass hallucination designed for survival. Watching these strategies unfold, one begins to realize that life in the deep sea is less like a food chain and more like a silent performance. Every creature is both actor and audience, predator and prey, always shifting roles. The boundaries between them blur, made indistinct by tricks of the light. As cameras adapted to film in black water slowly reveal more of this hidden choreography, scientists are only beginning to understand how far deception shapes deep-sea life. What we once believed were simple adaptations now appear to be layered strategies. Biology fused with perception. Survival encoded in confusion. In the darkest places on Earth, the only real weapon is the lie. And the most dangerous predators are the ones that can make their lie look like the truth. There is no stage more deceptive than the ocean. At the surface, the sea reflects light with the calm precision of glass, offering an illusion of serenity and stillness. But below, every layer tells a different lie. What looks like shelter may be a snare. What appears to be a harmless blur may erupt into violence. The ocean does not reward power alone. It favors the illusionist, the manipulator, the strategist. Here, nature isn't just red in tooth and claw. It's cloaked in camouflage, glittering with false lights, breathing misdirection into every current. From the sunlit shallows to the abyssal plains, illusion has become a weapon of choice for predators who understand that victory doesn't belong to the fastest or the strongest, but to those who can vanish, distract, or confuse. Every reef crevice, sand ripple, and flicker of light is part of a visual language, one honed not for beauty, but for ambush. A stonefish, nearly indistinguishable from the reef it rests upon, teaches that motionlessness can kill. It waits not with force, but with patience so complete it mimics geology itself. Its venom is not merely defensive, it's a closing act to a performance that began with perfect stillness. Meanwhile, just meters away, a cuttlefish swirls into color, its skin a living screen. Pigment cells contract and expand in synchronized pulses, forming waves across its body that hypnotize nearby crustaceans. This isn't camouflage, it's optical suggestion, a direct manipulation of how light hits the retina of its target. What appears to be an ever-shifting display of color is in fact a message. Come closer. The prey doesn't flee because it's not sure what it's seeing. Even in the arena of open water where hiding places are scarce, the game of deception plays out. Humpback whales, the largest hunters in the performance, spin bubble nets into visual prisons. With nothing but breath and motion, they herd fish into compact spirals, creating not just a hunting technique, but a moment of collective panic. The prey don't see a predator, they see entrapment. The whale then ascends through the vortex, mouth agape, harvesting the confusion it created. In darker waters where sunlight never penetrates, the strategies shift from camouflage to conjuring. Anglerfish hang suspended, glowing lures dangling like baited lies. Barrel eyes turn their entire skulls into optical devices. Shrimp eject clouds of glowing chemicals to flee like phantoms. In these depths, light is as much a weapon as teeth or toxin. It is used sparingly, but with precision. A flash here, a pulse there. It is enough to spark hunger or fear in an instant. The mimic octopus distills this concept into its purest form. It doesn't just blend into its surroundings, it becomes another species altogether. One moment it flattens into the shape of a flounder, the next it strikes out tentacles to resemble a venomous sea snake. It calculates the threat in its environment and selects its disguise accordingly. This is no instinctual camouflage. It is reactive theater, improvisation with evolutionary stakes. And then there are the jellyfish, who don't hunt with aggression but entanglement. Their nearly invisible tentacles trail behind like silken traps. A fish, unaware, swims into what it perceives as empty space, only to find itself wrapped in paralysis. The box jellyfish's near invisibility turns the ocean itself into a net, an invisible maze of deadly threads. These tactics aren't random. They're the result of pressures far greater than any single species. In the evolutionary arms race of the sea, brute force is expensive. Speed requires constant movement. Strength burns energy. But illusion is efficient. It saves energy, avoids direct confrontation, and manipulates outcomes. It shifts the terms of battle before the battle even begins. The reef, in particular, acts as the ultimate training ground for such tactics. It's not just a neighborhood of fish and coral. It's a labyrinth of sightlines, distractions, and sensory overload. Flashy colors don't always mean danger, and dullness doesn't guarantee safety. Mantis shrimp use ultraviolet patterns and rapid strikes that happen faster than the brain can register. Cleaner fish exploit mutualism, sometimes turning con games into a meal. In every corner, deception is currency. This arms race of perception has reshaped entire food chains. Predators are no longer just chasers or fighters. They are illusionists, psychological engineers, conductors of sensory confusion. Their prey, in response, must decode false signals, anticipate shadow moves, and survive in a world where nothing is what it seems. Evolution has driven eyes to become sharper, brains to become more analytical, and instincts to evolve past simple fear. Fish that cannot learn these patterns go extinct. Those that can thrive. And yet the story doesn't end with predators. Some prey turn illusion back on their hunters. The frogfish mimic sponges. Filefish shapeshift to match coral branches. Even octopuses, preyed upon by larger fish and mammals, vanish into their surroundings, leaving behind only a puff of ink, a final lie, a smokescreen curtain closing on the act. In this ocean arena, every creature plays its role. The sand trickster, the skin magician, the ghost net, the shadow puppeteer. Together, they form a spectrum of deception more complex than any battle of claws or jaws. It's a quiet war fought through misdirection and mimicry, where the smartest, not the strongest, become the deadliest. Ultimately, what we've seen across these 10 chapters is a rewiring of the natural order. In the underwater world, strength lies not in size but in strategy, not in speed but in subtlety. The best predators are the ones you never see coming, not because they move fast, but because you never realize they're there at all. The illusionists reign because they understand the rules of perception. And beneath the waves, perception is everything.